All right, cool. We are live. Good morning, Facebook. Um, let's see. I am Allison Dillard, author, math professor, mom of three, founder of the Raise a Math Person parenting membership. And we are here today on Facebook this morning to record an episode for my upcoming podcast, Allison Loves Math. I am super excited today to introduce you to Katherine Saltzberg, our guest for the morning. She is a parent coach. She goes by the name of Coach K, and she has a website, icoachmom.com, where she can teach you how to find her parenting calm, which I love so much. That's what we as parents need so much right now. So the reason why I invited Coach K on today is, one, Katherine, every time that we've talked, I think that you are wonderful, and I just want other parents to hear from you. And the second reason is that we've been talking a lot, you and I, about media, social media, video games, just media in general, and what a problem it can be. And as far as math goes, I know so many parents always say, we have a math problem. Math is a problem. Math is a problem. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? You might actually have a media problem. All right, because it can actually be a huge problem for math in general. It's a huge obstacle to success in math. So this is going to be our topic for today. And welcome, Katherine. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing really well. I'm happy to be here, Allison. Thank you. And if you can help me find my math calm, that would be really great. So now I'm really happy to be here. And regarding, media, and as we've talked about, media gets in the way, can get in the way of everything. And is media bad? No, of course, it's here to stay. It's going to be here, forever. It's about managing the media, which is very difficult. I had a mom email me or text me actually yesterday saying, can you help me? I just gave my 3 kids iPhones. Can you help me manage the media? And I said, no, media is impossible to really to manage that really, and so I throw that term, we have to manage it. It really is impossible to manage. So what do you do? Well, okay, you just said manage media. So tell me what to do. Well, the first thing is that you have to have filters. I want to say that first and foremost, you have to have filters on your media, all media in your home first. And the second is no media in the bedroom, ever. None. So that's number 2. And then I can hear parents going, well, tell me how to do that. My son has the iPad in his room right now. But for a lot of parents watching, they may not have media in the bedroom. Specifically for studying, a lot of kids today being on Zoom. And, I talk to parents all day. So I know what's happening is a lot of kids have 2 screens up, the iPads off to the side. They're not able to focus at all on what they're doing. So whether you're great at math, whether you're struggling, whatever level that you are, whatever you're doing, that if you're distracted like that, it's you just aren't giving your kids the opportunity. You're not creating the circumstance for them to be able to absorb what you'd like them to.
Hang on one second. I'm so sorry. I think my 5-year-old woke up and there's been this banging. So let me go talk to him really quick.
That's okay. So we all are dealing with that. You're not alone.
I'm so sorry about that. Usually it's the 5-year-old actually, and this morning it was the 8-year-old getting up.
That's okay.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry about that. And I totally lost my train of thought.
The last thing I said was that as a parent, you need to create the circumstances so your children can learn whatever the task is, whatever you're wanting them to learn.
Right. Yes, no, I think that is so important. And I think that often as parents, we don't realize how distracting media is for our kids. And I think it plays out in math a lot because we think that parents so often tell me, like, my kid's studying and they study for hours and hours and hours and they can't get through their homework. And one of the stories that I like to tell parents in this situation is, I was grading one day at Irvine Valley College. out getting some sun, just doing it outside. And I noticed a student come and sit at another table, and she sat down and she had her math book out the whole time that she was there, but she was on her phone the whole time she was there, and like the entire time. And I swear she was there for like 45 minutes, never actually wrote anything down, never actually flipped the page, and then at the end, got up and left. And I was thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure that this student probably counted that as a full 45 minutes of studying math.
Was she in your class actually? Like
No,
or you were
this
just
is
grading?
noticing,
Okay.
just noticing a
Sorry.
student around,
Got it. Mhm.
and so
Yeah.
I think that, at least with math, oftentimes, what happens is that students are saying, oh, I'm doing my math homework right now. I'm doing my math homework right now. But they're actually spending most of that time on social media or on the web, and, or chatting with their friends. And then, at the end of the day, parents get really frustrated because they think, oh, my child spent like 3 hours trying to do their math homework and not being able to get through it, when in fact they weren't actually, their math book was out, but they weren't actually focused that whole time. There's a big difference between working on your schoolwork when you're distracted by a million different things versus working on your schoolwork when you are really seriously focused on it.
Right. Right. I think, and something you said that, the parents will say, well, my kid was studying. And I think parents know that their kids are distracted. They see it.
Right.
The problem is that they're unwilling. And it's not their fault, by the way. We talked about this earlier. I became a coach. I fell into parent coaching out of difficulty. I'm a step parent. We have our own. And I did not know how to draw any boundaries. I knew how to be empathetic and loving and fun. And I knew how to, but I didn't know how to really draw a boundary that was very clear. And the reason I didn't, and it wasn't my fault, is because we've had many experts for a long time say, you want to make sure your kids like you, that you hear them. So there's a fear of drawing a boundary. And, I coach moms who are stay-at-home moms or CEOs, and they can fire somebody on a dime, but they're afraid of their 6-year-old. And it's not their fault.
Right.
Just that there's that fear of, oh, I don't want to damage my child somehow. I don't want them to feel like I don't hear them, or that I'm disrespecting them, or a big one is, I don't want them to think I don't trust them. Well, mom and dad, you don't trust them, and you shouldn't trust them. And what I mean by that is, trust is something that's earned.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, your kids have to be able to trust that you have their well-being and their backs first and foremost. So it's not about, I think parents really do know their kids distracted. They may not know all the time who their kids playing Fortnite with, but they know their kids distracted. But it's like, okay, what do I do? I'm afraid to take that device away because all the other kids have it. And this one is, well, I'm on my phone. How dare I, with the hypocrisy? And it's not, this thinking is very common. If you are thinking that, I'm not saying all parents are. So really where the struggle is how do I get the media out of my kid's hand? Mm-hmm. How do I draw the boundary?
Yes. So what are your tips for that? What are some tips for setting boundaries? Right.
So yeah, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
I was gonna say, because I think you're right. There is that awareness that we need to be better about that, right? But it's how do you actually implement that? That's the really hard part, right?
Right. It is the hard part. Now, if first and foremost, I'm talking to single moms, I'm talking to single dads, I'm talking to parents who are a cohesive unit right now, parents who are having a lot of challenges in their relationship. And, I know I'm talking to everyone. First and foremost is family peace. This is very, very important. If you can get on the same page with your significant other, that's great. Don't do anything flying by the seat of your pants. If you can pull your spouse aside, your partner aside, and say, listen, can we do this together? That's first and foremost. If you have a spouse that says, I don't care if they're on the phone, and you taking the phone away is going to cause a meltdown and problems, I urge you to pause. Because really that's most important. It's better to have, really, believe it or not, it's better to have a kid with a phone there a little bit working on the math than it is to have meltdowns. And so, that may seem odd what I'm saying, but family piece is very, very important. So I want to say that first and foremost. So let's say that you are able to just go ahead and draw that boundary, that you're on the same page enough, that your spouse looks at you and goes, have at it. If you can do it, go for it. So first and foremost is to be clear on where you're coming from. You need to know that it's okay to be authoritative with your children, not authoritarian, right? Not permissive. And this is where we are today. We're either screaming, going, put it down, which is very unkind. Or we're the other way, which is, I just give up and I don't really care. Just have at it.
Right.
So you want to be in the middle. So I just say you have permission, and I urge you to be authoritative. So going forward with that, approach their Zoom at this time as if they are in school. And you can say, you know what, I've decided that it's best for you not to have your phone during school today. Every day. In fact, I expect it to be in my room or hanging up wherever it is that you have the phone. Now, sometimes that's very hard to manage depending on what age your children are. So there's a couple of ways. Either you can start small. You can start by saying, this is the way it's going to be. And you have to let go of your children liking you. They're not going to like you. They're not going to agree with you. Your 8-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, generally speaking, are not going to turn around and say, thanks so much, Mom. Thank you for doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. It is a thankless job. It is your job to get the media out of their hands. They have no opportunity to focus. So you can either say, this is the way it is. The phone needs to be over here. And after school, you can check in your WhatsApp or whatever it is. Or you can do the courageous thing, which is how I coach parents to say that. I don't believe any 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old should really have a smartphone at all. At all. See, it is a toy in their hands. Generally, it is work or business in your hands. Mm-hmm. So my suggestion is that if you are willing to say, you know what, we've decided that your dad and I've decided that this isn't in your best interest. So I replaced it with a text and talk that you'll have when I decide you need to have it. I know some parents are going, I can't even imagine myself doing that.
Right. Well, it's a hard, that's a hard one, right?
Yes.
Because especially for parents who have already let their kids have cell phones, right? I mean, it's one thing, where we are, as I'm listening to all of this, I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky that I'm learning this while my kids are still young. They don't have cell phones yet, because I can see that so hard if you're then backtracking and saying, you know what, I've given my kid a cell phone. It's really, really hurtful for them or counterproductive. And now we want to backtrack.
Yes.
How do you suggest doing that?
So I want to give you a couple of ways to go, because by the way, it's not my way or the highway. It's, when I coach, I work with parents.
Oh yeah. But I think it's that if the parent is, say, listening and deciding, you know what, I think that big thing is the big change that would make a huge difference for me. Can we maybe try to walk them through how they would go about that? Because I can see that being a huge mountain to climb.
Right. And especially because we're going, so the big thing is, but it's COVID and they have no one to talk to and it's really hard. So, and I understand that. And yes, that is true. So you have to know your child. But more importantly, as importantly, you have to know yourself. Am I just afraid that my child's not going to like me? Am I just afraid they're going to be so hurt? But what if taking away their media or drawing boundaries, really clear boundaries, what if that was the thing that helped your child? What if by doing that, there's parenting expert John Rosamund says, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, take away the media, regain the child.
Yes.
So let's say you have an older kid. And by the way, I've been through this right now. I've been through it myself. So generally I do coach what I'm dealing with. So, but you have to get clear first. But then let's say you have a kid who's 14, 15, and you say, listen, this phone is a distraction. You're on your WhatsApp, you're on the chats, and it's not fair to you. And so I've decided, or we've decided, that we're going to, for now, we're going to pause your phone. And let's say, and by the way, let's say grades are not going, I mean, they're really poor, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking, you have some D's with a child that is capable of getting A's and B's, but right now they're not even, they're failing some classes or D's.
Right, right.
And this is, okay. And you can say, if, to your children, you could say, something, you're capable, and forget about potential. We have to deal in reality of where your kids are at all times, in reality, not where you think they can be. Okay. So, but let's say your children are getting D's and F's and you have a very strong reason to take media out of their hands. You can say, something, I love you too much to not give you the opportunity. I care about you too much, and it's my job as a parent, and you're going to understand that someday. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And say, so we've decided now, and you, by the way, and I'm telling you, we've decided that the phone we can revisit that. So you have to leave an open door. You have to have light at the end of the tunnel. For right now, and kids are concrete, especially if they're little. How long? I want to know when, right? So you need to be specific. We'll revisit that in 2 weeks, or revisit that in a month. Whatever the judgment call is for you. But right now.
Or revisit that when the math grade goes back up.
But exactly. So right now I'm doing that, I have to say. I'm doing that with a child.
Okay. And how's it going?
Something? I struggle with the same thing you do, even though this is what I do all day. I have the same feelings inside going, I do. So I had to say, something? There is no Xbox. And I had to say, until you do what is your responsibility. And by the way, I need to tell you, Mom and Dad, it will get worse before better. Maybe the grade doesn't improve. Maybe the child just, says, I don't want to, or I feel hopeless. You need to support them in any way you can, of course, right? We need support. We need it. But there's a difference between micromanaging and hovering and supporting, which is a different topic than what we're talking about right now. But I say, for the media, you have to be willing to draw the boundaries. And if you are unclear, if you succumb to your feelings, this is not helpful for your child. So you get clear. So, and a wonderful thing, it really is wonderful to be able to say, this is the way it is. When your grade, or when you're improving, and I focus on effort, and I'm sure you do too. This is not about the result. This is the effort. When I see that you're putting in the effort, and that it shows that you're turning in your work. Some kids are not doing that. Then I know you're doing your part. And whatever help you need a tutor. If you have the means to do that, we're here to support you. But it's not supporting you to have the Xbox, and they're not going to understand that. And when I say it's going to get worse before better, meaning, and you need to set that boundary of be clear and be willing to be uncomfortable. Be willing to, there's a line I heard the other day that said, I can't remember who said it, but courage is not having faith in certainty, but courage is having faith in uncertainty. There's no guarantee that when you take away the media, your child's going to go, let me get to it now and work.
Right.
Because you can't, right.
Some backlash there.
Because you can't control your child.
Mm-hmm.
But it is your responsibility to have the media. So if you know, and you know it here in your gut, by the way, Mom and Dad, when you ask yourself, is this a distraction for my kid? Have the courage to answer it, at least honestly, within yourself. And then if the answer is it is, then you can draw the boundary. And that's what I help parents to do. And this isn't rocket science, but you can just say, you know what? The Xbox is gone, as Allison said, until that grade starts to improve. And then I'll revisit that. And then you have to just stop. And your kid's going to beg you. By the way, this is the last thing I'm going to say. They're going to beg you. They're going to cry. I don't know what. They're going to do everything they can. It is their job to do everything they can to get you to cave. That's their job. They do it very well. In order for them to be able to really trust you and feel they can rely upon you, you have to demonstrate not that you're inflexible, but that you don't cave. And you can listen to them and you can say, I hear you. I'd be upset too if I were you. I know you want that. I know that. Tell me how you feel about that. Yeah, I would feel exactly the same way too if I were your age. I know that's how you communicate with your friends. I know. And when I see that you're doing what you need to do, then we will revisit that. What would you like for dinner?
That's great, Catherine. That is such good advice. I love the way that you set up boundaries, but like you said, not in the authoritarian way. There's a way to do it lovingly while still having those firm boundaries, you know. And it's hard, I think, for parents who maybe aren't doing that. That's very hard, especially the first time you try to set those boundaries. There's going to be even more pushback from your kids because they're not used to it. But it's definitely a fight worth having, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. It's not easy. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, it's interesting, you're just sort of talking in the context of math. One of the things that, I recommend that families do is sort of to take an experimental approach with things, right? Is to look at, what are your biggest obstacles to success or your goals, success in math or STEM, whatever it is that you're aiming for, and once you've sort of identified those obstacles, to experiment with different things that can fix it or help you overcome them. And I think a lot of times this creating boundaries for media is a really good thing to start with. If like you said, in your gut, you kind of know that this is a problem, that this is holding them back, and then, pick that battle. And I strongly encourage you to pick that battle if you feel in your gut that is something that is really, causing difficulties for your kids. And then from there, and know that it's not all or nothing, right? Because we know that they might need extra support, to pull their math grade up. They might need, alternate ways to socialize with their friends, especially if they're home distance learning. You don't want to 100% cut them off from their friends. Of course, nobody wants that.
Right.
But you set those boundaries, and then there are other ways to do that. So then you think, well, what is the next obstacle? Maybe it's the social stuff, maybe it's the math, right? And then you think about that obstacle and you say, well, what's the next best thing that I can do to help them with that? So don't backtrack when things get hard. Just think about, what's the next obstacle and how can I help my child through that?
Yeah. Do I have time to say anything else or no? Maybe it's
sure. Yeah, we got a few more minutes.
I think, as you're talking, I'm listening and I can feel, I can hear, so many parents going, that boundary and it is so overwhelming. And I think it's so important if you can find another parent, two parents that are struggling with what you're struggling with. We all need support. Parents feel very alone right now. And we are literally alone in our homes, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you reach out to other parents and say, are you struggling with media? Do you want to work on setting any boundaries together? I know it's vulnerable or can feel vulnerable to me to do that. And start with a small boundary. Start with something, that's what I tell parents, that you have to have, just like your child has to have a win, you have to have a win.
Yes.
If you have media at your dinner table, and by the way, you can't control a spouse. If you have someone on their iPad at the table, you can say off to the side, listen, I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't, but with your children, and I've been there, done that. So, but I think if that's one boundary that you say, at mealtime, our phones are off. And how do you even say that? Well, you don't ask permission.
Mm-hmm.
You just say, I've decided that at mealtime, we're going to start with breakfast or whatever. One, baby step.
Right.
We're not going to have meals at your phone at the table. And first, it starts with you. It is man in the mirror. It is mom in the mirror, right?
Oh, yes. They follow our example more than what they follow what they say.
Yeah. So model, of course. But then again, okay, thanks. That's a lovely theory. How do I get the phone out of my kid's hand? I get it. So, but a baby step. And all you have to do is say, put the phone down and don't nag. Put the phone down, but just pause. And before you put that food on the table, just say, yeah, I just put the phone away and then I'll bring the dinner and just be real, just stand there.
Right, right.
I know that sounds a little odd, but that's how I do coach parents. Go ahead.
And it is interesting too, because oftentimes, these little things, they actually are bigger overall, right? Which is why it's helpful to choose something small, because when you think about that, if you're taking the phone away from dinner, what are you replacing it with? If you're not used to if everybody's used to being on their phone at dinner, it might actually be really awkward and really difficult.
Yes.
Remember, it doesn't have to stay that way, right? Then your next obstacle is, okay, well, how do I get everybody engaged and talking again during dinner? So don't, when you hit that awkwardness, when you take it away, don't backtrack and say, okay, it didn't work for us. Just recognize what that next obstacle is and then try to work on the conversation from there.
That's a great point. Hey, that is a great point. And it's like math. I guess that it's like, I couldn't, right. We keep trying, but also you're not there. You don't have to be. And we parents feel like we have to be everything. We have to be the circus clown. We have to be the therapist. It's okay to not know. It's okay to look and say, guess what? We don't have the phone. Isn't this exciting? Maybe we can play Rummy Cube. Maybe we can just
figure it out together.
We'll figure it out together, or we'll sit in silence. Oh gosh, that kind of is uncomfortable. I don't know. It's okay not to know, but it's okay not to know. What you can celebrate and acknowledge within yourself is, I drew a boundary today, and really acknowledge yourself. It's so important, just like you do with your kids, because to draw that boundary is massive. And the little boundary will start with another one. Loving, unconditionally loving, authoritative boundaries.
Perfect. Oh, that's such good advice, Katherine. Thank you so much for all of this. I feel like we really zeroed in on one really big specific problem that parents are facing today. So thank you so much for walking us through all of this. I think for me, even though my kids are younger, it's super helpful. And I know that it'll be helpful also for other parents who are in it with the older kids, especially.
I hope so. I know it's hard.
Before we go, can you tell us, tell parents, especially, we were talking about, parents being alone right now, and definitely, you want to reach out to your friends, right? Make this journey with friends for sure. But there's also another amazing resource here. Coach Kate is a parent coach, and you can reach out to her as well. So can you tell us a little bit about, what you do and where parents can find you?
Yes. So my website is I Coach Moms. It's plural, I Coach Moms. And my email is coach@icoachmoms.com. And, I'm here to really be of service. And I'm helping a lot of parents right now. So, and, I just listen and then tell you, suggest, what I think would be a good way to go. And it really is about willingness. So, and I do encourage parents to get together. I am going to be doing a class, which is going to be, I call it the 2, 2, and 2. It's going to be, I think it's going to be an hour. I'm not sure yet, but it's going to be next month. It's, sorry, I just paused for just a moment. My 2, 2, and 2 is, I think it's going to be 2 hours. Some parents actually can stay on it for the time. Some have to jump off, but you can invite 2 friends, because I want you to have that support. So you can invite 2 friends, and it's 2 weeks of support from me, because I know that it's like sort of like therapy. I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach, but you make all these great plans with your coach or your therapist, and then you leave and go, so I know that where parents really need me is in the doing.
Yes.
In the application.
Mm-hmm.
So I have found that it's over the years that's when I really help parents, is we make the great plans. Oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to take the phone away. And then the reality is there. So they'll call me from the bathroom, Coach, my son is crying and kicking the door, and can you help? And then that's not always that dramatic, but so if that's something you're interested in, you would need to just shoot me an email, and I'll put you on that list, and then you can go ahead and join us. And then you'll have a couple of friends that you feel comfortable with, that you can do this together.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you're setting it up because you're also strengthening their support system at the same time with their friends. I love that you're integrating that as part of the coaching.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I appreciate so much the
Thank you.
opportunity to learn from you and pick your brain about all of these things. And
Thank you.
if you're watching us live, thank you so much for joining us live. And the Allison Loves Math podcast will be coming out soon. And I encourage you to, I don't know, check that out. Keep checking back on the Facebook page because I'm close to having it done at this point. I've got a bunch of the episodes edited, and I'm working on some of the tech stuff, getting the podcast episodes up and getting a web page set up. So as soon as I finish up those next couple of things, we'll be all set to launch it. And then we'll have some fantastic episodes with Coach K and other experts in math and education and parenting. So have a wonderful day, everyone. I will see you next time. Bye.